Okay, so the next date is tonight, the 24th, Tammuz 24, which is July 9-10, which is Monday, Tuesday, Tammuz 24. So it's the 95th Barley Pentecost from the fall of the Watchtowers of True Church, 2005 ER 14. So it's 4,750 BLC days after that, 95 Pentecosts after they became a false church. And that's the first Barlean Pentecost because they became prophets of Baal when they ceased to be prophets of Jehovah. The Watchtower is presently run by Baal, which is, actually it's run by demon, well, someone with demon possessed. But it's just worshipper status really, Baal, governing body. So they became such when they became a false church. Prior to that they were prophets of Jehovah when they were a true church. So this is the 4,750th Barlean day for them. And it's the first 50-count Barlean Pentecost to fall entirely after the Lord's Witness Exodus times, which ran from 2011 Nisan 15 to 2018 Nisan 15. So the 94th Watchtower Barlean Pentecost ran actually from Nisan 15 to Sivan 4 inclusively, which didn't run entirely after the extended times because the extended times didn't end until Nisan 15. It just missed it by one day. So this is the first Barlean Pentecost to run wholly after the Lord's Witness Exodus times, which is the go back 7 times of 1 Kings 18. So that's one reason why we think it's today. But here's the easiest reason to work out why. Well, there's several other reasons. One is that if you do the sentence count of Daniel 7 of the Russian bear being provoked with its 42 teeth and the 3 ribs in its mouth, I mean it says that, and it says in verse 5, look, another beast, a second one, so that's 2 times. Then it says, and it was like a bear, so that's 1 plus 1, like a bear, so that's 2 times. And then it said it was raised up on one side, so that's 3. And then it had 3 ribs in its mouth, so that's 3. And they were between its teeth, so that's plus 42 teeth. 3 in between, so 3 in the midst of 42, 45. And this is what they were saying to it: get up, eat much flesh. They were saying that. That's a Hebrew plural. They said 2 things, so that's 3 times 2 is 6. Hebrew plural is 3 times. So that's 6 plus 45 plus, what was it, 3, which is 54. I've counted this wrong. Anyway, I counted it to 105. And that takes you from the provocation of the Russians, the international expulsion of all their diplomats on Nisan 9, when 23 countries, I think, chucked out 116 of their diplomats on the basis of a certainly unproven and more than likely false accusation from the UK government. You don't pass sentence before you've had a trial, and you don't have a trial before you presented the evidence to the person who's accused and given him a chance to refute it. It's a basic principle of any justice, including British justice, which has now been abolished in this country, just as the Americans are abolishing their constitution. We've abolished our standards. And in fact, worldwide, what's happening is that people are throwing away what their forefathers taught them in morality and being wooed by globalism and unsustainable nonsense. So the 24th you can get to by adding 105 days to when the Russians were provoked. And what they say is get up, eat much flesh to this bear, which means that it doesn't get up whilst they're saying it. So for that whole 105 day count they don't get up, but when that count ends they do get up, and that's World War III, and that's Tammuz 24. But the simplest of them all proof is the following. Laodicean Passover was 2018 Nisan 14. You can see that if you're a Laodicean because you know when you did the 40 days of spying, and that ended on Tishri 21, 2014. And then 1260 days of prophesying in sackcloth takes you to Nisan 21, 2018, which is first fruits. And it's when the Laodiceans were appointed as a true church after their Laodicean Passover. You can also get to it from the 11 prophetic times of Abraham's times, from his crossing of the Euphrates 1943 Nisan 14 BC to 2018 Nisan 14. That's when he starts taking the kingdom in possession. He's not going to be doing that into a false church. So Laodicea had to have a Passover and become a true church at first fruits thereafter. So then we have Mene Mene Tekel and Parsin from the feast on 2018 Nisan 14, the Passover, which led to the appointment of Laodicea as a true church. So Belshazzar is the angel of Laodicea, or the president of Laodicea, in that interpretation. So we count Mene, 100 days from Nisan 14, and we get to Tammuz 24, and that's when the judgment tekel occurs in the form of 2 fire signs. So that's probably the simplest way of deducing the significance of Tammuz 24. Another way to look at it is the two hidden in the cave, the two groups of 50, except that they wouldn't really be hidden until they became a true church, Nisan 21. So that will run from Nisan 21 to Tammuz 30, which is when the last Laodiceans leave that cave for Zoar, and Laodicea ceases to exist as a church independent from this church. And then the sower and the reaper can rejoice together, and let's hope we do. So those are the reasons for Tammuz 24. First, barley and Pentecost count entirely after extended times. Sentence count of Daniel 7:5 from the provocation of the Russians on 2018 Nisan 9 plus 105 takes you there. And Mene, or 100 days after Laodicean Passover at the end of the 11 times of the Abrahamic times on 2018 Nisan 14. Incidentally, we moved the date of the watchtower being appointed because they feed for 100 times, and a better chronology given it's all hinged on not on the end of the continuous Gentile times of 1914 to 15, but on actually the birth of Russell and his 30th birthday, and when he was baptized from heaven in water as Elijah 3, which was 1882 Sivan 9. And so the correct pattern is that he was appointed to feed in 1912 Tishri 2, and that means that he gets 100 years of spiritual food of feeding from 1913 Nisan 1 to 2012 Nisan 1, and then they all died to Adam, those in the true church of Laodicea, on 2012 Sivan 14. So the 100 years of the feeding of the 5,000 of Mark 5 of them sitting down in rows of hundreds and fifties, the 100 years of the feeding of the watchtower runs from their appointment to feed 1913 Tishri 1 to their death to Adam, which ended their priesthood temporarily, 2012 Sivan 14. And then you've got a Mene, Tekel and Parsin to add to their appointment over all Jesus' belongings, which was 1916 was their appointment, first fruits, which was Nisan 20, and the Pentecost their installation was 1916 Sivan 9. And then you count Mene, Tekel is 101 years. Well, the first Passover after their appointment was 1917 Nisan 14, because their installation, or their appointment was Nisan 20, 1916. Their installation was Sivan 9. The first Passover after that, which they could then celebrate as an installed sacred king over the one he reserves and all the saints. 1917 Nisan 14. You count Mene, Tekel in years, 101 years, takes you to 2018 Nisan 14. Same place you get with the 1260 days of Laodicean wilderness penalty, same place you get with the 11 prophetic times of Abraham's times. So all those three arguments say that the judgment on the watchtower and the appointment of Laodicea and the beginning of the possession by Abraham of the kingdom are 2018 Nisan 14, and then the 5 fingers of the hand in the Mene, Tekel and Parsin, the 5 Passovers, Nisan, Iyar, Sivan, Tammuz, Ab, 3 of the watchtower and 2 of Laodicea, or the late and the regular Passover, Lord's evening meal. And then the lampstand, of course, is the Laodicean appointment of them being a true church, Nisan 21, and the writing on the wall was before the lampstand, so it counts from the Passover, Nisan 14, and that again takes you to Tammuz 24. So that's the reasoning, and we expect, in this country everybody's resigning, something is going on politically. And then the other reason is that World War III lasts for 50 days. It's a Pentecostal war. It's actually the installation of the wild beast and the mark of the beast, and it ends at the end of the Great Tribulation on El-14, which is the 96th Barlean Pentecost. So it lasts 50 days from the 95th Barlean Pentecost of the Watchtower to the 96th Barlean Pentecost of the Watchtower. Thank you very much.